Welcome to the Daisy Blue Fashion Variety Show. I am Nancy Blizzard, your host, and my guest today is Mona Lucero from Mona Lucero Designs. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate you inviting me.
Tell me how you got started in fashion.
Well, actually, I originally wanted to be an artist, and my very first memory as a child was drawing, and I remember I drew my grandmother, and I thought, I want to be an artist, even before I knew what an artist was. But for some reason, somewhere, I knew that that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I ended up going to art school here at CU Denver. And as I was going through school, I was always interested in fashion. And I was one of those art students who always wore crazy things. So like flight suit with like fur collars and pink tennis shoes and pearls and asymmetrical colored hair and things like that. So I was always experimenting with my look and having a really great time with it. And in the meantime, also looking at magazines, in particular Vogue and Elle and Mademoiselle and just anything I could pick up. I decided to go to design school after I finished art school. I went to Fashion Institute of Technology, and I remember I felt like I was walking on clouds in Manhattan at the time. I just remember just being so happy that I was going to be able to go to school in New York. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made was to go to fashion school in New York. It was a wonderful experience. I started seriously designing when I came back from design school. I worked for a few different companies. The very first company I worked for here in Denver was a ski wear company, a very high-end ski wear company. And I worked as an assistant pattern maker and learned about grading and how production works. And then I worked as an assistant designer and then began to design the line for an exercise wear company. And there I learned a lot about how to use and how to work with stretch fabrics, and we designed, I think, about 4 or 5 lines a year. It was very fast-paced and it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I started creating my own line. I got very serious with my line about 95 or 96. I sold wholesale, and then eventually I opened my own store in the Highlands neighborhood, and I had that store for about 10 years.
Tell me about your style.
One of the words that I have used over the years is the word eclectic. If you look through my line, you'll see a lot of variety in the pieces. In some cases, one of the words or terms I like to use is pop art. I am inspired by pop culture. I've done things that I would like to call pop deconstructions, where I actually take different ideas, for instance, maybe a t-shirt that's already printed and putting it together with another one. I think it could be anywhere from those bold graphic things to flowy lines to soft sheer fabrics to heavier fabrics, and there's just a big variety. I think of it as a powerful woman who's wearing a lot of these things, somebody who's confident and strong and very colorful. No matter what I do, I use a lot of color in all my pieces. And I'm known for black, white, and red. I like to think of my customer as being able to express who they are through the clothes. And just like them, every day I might wear something completely different. I take the same pieces and wear them in different ways. For instance, I might put on a different jewelry, a different top. You could start with a t-shirt. You can make it more dressy, or you can dress it down.
Do you have certain materials that you like, but you prefer?
Well, I would say I like all kinds of materials. I just like quality materials, and I don't necessarily have a preference in terms of what kind of material. I mean, I've worked with silks, rayons. I work with stretch, wools, cottons. Cottons are fun to work with because they have this certain crispness. Tulle, I've been working a lot with tulle. Sometimes I choose fabrics that are harder to work with just because they're beautiful, and then I realize they're hard to work with once I start working with them. I've always loved velvet, and I remember at one point when I first started designing, I remember creating with velvet, and I said, I'll never, ever work with velvet again. What was I thinking? And I've never stopped using velvet.
And how do you start designing? Do you drape? Do you sketch? How do you come up with your creations?
When I start a design, I create it, and it depends on what my inspiration is. Sometimes I start drawing. Sometimes I go to old drawings. I have just hundreds of drawings. I have many, many drawings over the years, and it's funny how sometimes I go back and I go, oh, I had that idea years ago. But a lot of times what I do is I'll start with a general idea of what I think women are needing right now.
Do you design specifically for clients?
I do what I call customized design.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you can take one of my pieces and we can customize it for you. We can take a piece and alter it to your size, or we can put it in a different fabric, or we can change details, and otherwise it's all ready to wear. I'm always thinking about what's happening around me. I pay attention to what women are wearing. I pay attention to what's happening in general in the culture, and I start thinking about what would I want to wear, and what do I think my clients might want to wear, and that's how I get started. And then, of course, fabric inspires me too. So.
I'm looking forward to bringing up Doroka.
Yes.
So she can show off one of your pieces.
Yes. So, Doroka, come on up. Doroka is a Denver fashion model. She is one of my favorite models here in Denver, and she has been my muse recently. She had worked with me for a show that I did recently called Massive Fashion Week. Today she's wearing a dress that I call Psyche, and it is one of the things that I love to do, and particularly dresses, is I like to create a piece that is beautiful on obviously a three-dimensional body, but as you turn, the piece looks beautiful from every angle. Every time I make a decision about a piece, I'm looking at that three-dimensional piece. Where does it look best on a woman's body? Now, women's bodies are gorgeous already. What can you do to make them even more gorgeous? Probably not much, but what you're trying to do is it's almost like putting a frame on a beautiful creation. And in this case, if you look at this bow, it's very simple, but where it's placed is exactly in the spot that I consider to be one of the prettiest places on a woman's body, and it's accentuating it just a little bit. Even if you look at the hemline, there is a little bit of an angle on the hemline. And then, of course, there is the angle on the back where it crisscrosses on the back. And what I love, too, is a beautiful back. As you can see, it's very flattering. Oh. It gives her just a nice curve on her hip area, and every angle is just really pretty on her. And it's pretty on every woman who tries it on. She's also wearing some earrings that I created, and they are wood die-cut earrings with little crystals on them.
Oh, I like that.
I asked her to do a Veronica Lake look for me today. She looks great. Thing I love about this design, it's one of the favorites that I've created in the last couple of years, is that it looks great on so many different people's bodies. This particular one is actually a stretch piece. I've done it in non-stretch, but this is a new part of my line where I'm taking what I like to call the Mona Classic. This has now become one of my classic pieces. When I created it originally, it was done on bias in silk and in rayon. This piece, this is an interesting line that I did, and I'm still working with this idea. Basically, this piece is made from, the front of it, the print itself is made from a vintage Japanese scarf from the 1950s. I created this whole collection of pieces that incorporated vintage scarves. This dress is actually called the Swallowtail. My logo incorporates a butterfly, and I decided to create dresses that made me think, that had something to do with butterflies. And the swallowtail is a well-known butterfly. The swallowtail actually has an uneven, so if you were to look at a swallowtail, the swallowtail kind of, the tail of the bottom of this butterfly kind of comes up and down like this. So it's very dramatic, as opposed to a monarch, which is a little bit softer feeling to it. I've shown this on a lot of different body types. And in fact, there were recently, I created a lot of dresses like this, and I had one girl who was probably, I think she's about 5'3" and very slim, and I had another woman wear the same dress, and she's probably more like close to 6 foot and probably more of a size 12 or a 14, and it fit both of them. This piece that you're going to see, the reason why I call it the fantasy skirt is because I've had so many women want to wear this skirt. There is a lot of fabric in this, and so there's an upper layer where you see the roses, and then it's lined. There's a second layer that is like a kind of like a brocade, and that also is lined. And then the under layer is made of tulle. The skirts that we're doing right now, we just have a big variety of this type of skirt in all different fabrics. And again, depending on the fabric, it can feel very different. I have some that are very graphic prints on them. And we also have a couple of other florals and just a big variety of color, red, black, white, again. And then the tops that coordinate with it can be also a big variety. This would look amazing with something like a lace top, an ivory lace top would look great. I've shown these types of skirts even with t-shirts, so you can dress it down. In her case, she's wearing heels, but if she wanted to wear it with flats, she could do that. And you could wear it with a sweater, a cardigan. You could do a ton of jewelry around the neckline or on her wrist. There's just a lot of things that you could do with this piece. I created the top, which is almost like a corset, but it's not a corset. It's actually really comfortable to wear. It's kind of the concept of a corset, but it actually zips up in the front like a little jacket. And I used a couple of different laces to coordinate with the skirt. Berets. For me, they're just a classic. They're always going to be something I'm going to wear, and I love it. I love to see them on women. I think they enhance the face very well, and they add warmth during this time of year. And as you can see in the back now, this particular skirt is a high-low. It's a little shorter in the front and longer in the back. I've been here in Denver for a long time as a designer. I don't see myself as just a Denver designer. I see myself as an American designer and an international designer, and I've sold around the world, and I've had people from all over the country buy my pieces. And whenever I hear the words local designer, I cringe, because it's not just about being local, it's about being able to spread your wings, so to speak, if we were talking about the butterfly metaphor. And I see myself continuing to go forward, and my hope is to sell more across the country, and my goals are to establish my online shopping presence and to keep going forward. I am inspired whenever I see fashion in an art milieu. I would love to do an art exhibition, a big art exhibition, where I put together my art and my ideas, my conceptual ideas, and my fashion. I like to think of my clients as being able to express themselves through my clothes, and I don't like to dictate. I like to see what people are going to do, but anytime someone buys something from me, as they're leaving, before they leave, I say, here are some suggestions. You can wear it this way, you can wear it that way, do it that way, wear it this way, add this, drop that, do a few layers. And a lot of times people are really surprised. They think to themselves, wow, I had no idea. And I think that's one of the great things about fashion. I always say that is the difference between fashion and style. Style is when somebody puts something on and they make it their own. And that is always exciting. That's what women should be doing, what men should be doing. It's a way to express yourself, it's a way to communicate. And many people don't understand this. To me, it's one of the most difficult things as a designer to convey is, wear this, go out and wear this, and experience what it's like to have people come up to you and introduce themselves. because what you're wearing is so interesting. They want to know who you are. It's not ultimately about this pretty skirt. It's about the experience that you have while you're wearing the pretty skirt. This is all what fashion is about. It's not just what you wear, but the entire experience of communication and what other people see in you as you're wearing it. Even though I've been designing for a long time, I think I'm hitting my stride recently in terms of the beauty of my work, and I feel that I'm on my way to mastering what it is that I do. It takes time, but I think I'm close.
Thank you for watching the Daisy Blue Fashion Variety Show here at Denver Open Media. It's been a pleasure having Mona Lucero on my show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.